happens the same way every time. Hey Verlatti, you got a minute? And then a random question pops up from, do you really not know anything about football? To where do I get a pair of those fresh kicks? We're gonna talk about that on today's episode. So when Michael Jordan was in college, he was wearing on his feet what most athletes at that time were, which was the Converse All-Stars. But when he made his way to the NBA, it was time for him to get paid. And Nike definitely brought fire to the table. They offered him a $250,000 a year contract for 5 years. That was over double what other NBA players were getting paid at that point. Additionally, they were going to pay him a royalty on every shoe sold. And in the first 2 months alone of having the Nike Air Jordan 1s on the street, they sold over $70 million worth of those shoes. So Michael definitely did a great job in getting that contract. So this here is my favorite colorway. This is called the Chicago, the red and white, the kind of authentic Bulls shoe. But this wasn't the first shoe that they came out with. The first shoe that they came out with was red and black, and they got banned by the NBA. They got banned for not complying with the NBA's regulations that the shoes had to match the uniform. And because the shoes were red and black, not red and white, those shoes were banned since getting their nickname. I really enjoy the Chicago colorway, but I've got maybe a dozen Nike Air Jordan 1s in my collection. And I get the question a lot, where do you buy these shoes? And I buy them one of 3 different places. The first is when they're released, the place that I find them is on the Nike app called Sneakers, SNKRS. I find that app to be pretty useful. They kind of release all their latest shoes, and if you're lucky enough to win the opportunity to buy them, you can pick up some great stuff. But you don't always get to buy what you want to buy. A lot of times they're sold out even on the first couple minutes of the drop, so you really got to be on it, and then you have to have a backup plan. So 2 of my backup plans are also websites. The first is GOAT, G-O-A-T. GOAT is a great place to find shoes that were recently released that somebody bought and they're just flipping. And then the second is StockX, S-T-O-C-K-X. And I find a lot of the kind of vintage shoes, the new old stocks that people maybe bought, put on the shelf, and they're selling years later. I find those on StockX. So this is an example of a shoe that was built, I think 15, 20 years ago, that somebody bought, they never wore. They resold them on StockX, and I was lucky enough to get these as a Christmas present from my wife last Christmas, and they continue to be one of the favorites in my collection. So that's a little bit about my love of the Nike Air Jordans, and I hope to see you next time wearing a fresh pair of kicks. Take care. This has been a production of Traction Media Labs, where we celebrate the hustlers, the grinders, the go-getters, the men and women that make this country great.